Hey, what's going on, y'all? Welcome in to Snaps here in the Volume Sports Podcast Network and YouTube channel. We're also live on AMP right now. We're not live on YouTube today. Obviously, here on Snaps, we are a college football podcast. And unfortunately, today is a day in which the college football news is dominated by tragedy as Mike Leach, a legend of college football, has passed away. And so we kind of sat down and talked about it as a team. And, I've hosted live radio for a lot of times, and you always got to do this thing where it's like, okay, let's honor this man, and now let's hit some awkward transition and like try to have fun or something like that again. So instead of doing any of that today, we are a podcast. We're allowed to be malleable and kind of get into what to. We are just going to talk about Coach Leach and his legacy and what he meant to the game for however long, and then that'll be the show. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm your host, T-Bob Hebert, and as always, joined by our QB1, Mr. Aaron Murray. Aaron, how you doing, man?
Man, obviously, just like you in the sports world, especially the college football world, saddened by the news of Coach Leach. And obviously, we heard some stuff, I would say, what, a week ago, rumors about health concerns and the thought of Coach Leach possibly stepping away from the game of football. Obviously, did not think it was this severe that we'd be here sitting here on a Tuesday afternoon talking about the passing of Coach Leach. But it's been amazing. I've listened to a lot of radio, watched some shows throughout the morning into the early afternoon, and the amount of lives that he impacted and the amount of great stories that I'm hearing from, listening to like Rick Neuheisel and even Urban Meyer was on their show this morning. I listened to on Sirius XM and the show Boney as well. Like there's Dan Mullen just talking about those interactions. And then, I've been lucky enough to cover two of his games in the past 4 or 5 years, interact with them at SEC Media Days for 4 or 5 straight years now, whether in Birmingham or here in Atlanta. And he is always just so much fun. And during these next 20, 25 minutes, I got a couple really fun stories that I would obviously love to share. But, when you ask coaches, why do you get into coaching? Like, why do you do it? Some do it for the thrill of being around the game of football, the excitement of Saturdays, the grind, all of that, which he does. But him, like most great coaches, they get in it because the impact they have on the student athletes, these young 18 to 22-year-olds that they get to be around every day, to mentor, to teach, to guide, to be that father figure. And because listen, when you take over, you tell these parents, because you and I were both in the living rooms, hey, your son, when he comes to Mississippi State or when he was at Washington State or Texas Tech, I'm going to take care of him. And he truly meant that. And he touched so many lives in that fashion. So I'm loving the day right now of celebration, of seeing, again, his student athletes and people that know him that were touched by him. It's just been awesome to see.
Yeah, it is. It is one of those days wherein you can quickly flip back and forward between kind of being saddened to the point of tears almost, and then just chuckling or laughing to yourself because of some anecdote or some classic Mike Leach clip or tangent or diatribe that popped up. And you're right. I mean, always in death, you want to celebrate the life that was, and it was an incredible life. The Leach's family's statement speaks to that, saying, quote, Mike was a giving and attentive husband, father, and grandfather. He was able to participate in organ donation at UMMC as a final act of charity. We are supported and uplifted by the outpouring of love and prayers from family, friends, Mississippi State University, the hospital staff, and football fans around the world. Thank you for sharing in the joy of our beloved husband and father's life. And he's a father of 4. He's only 61 years old. It is unbelievably tragic. But the joy of his life is also readily apparent. And I'm with you, Aaron, right? I've thoroughly, and I've had a couple interactions with him that were all very positive, right? But more so, I know him through anecdotes and hearing
Yep.
others' stories with him. And the thing that always stands out to me and that I really appreciate are I love all the stories where it's like there's one I can't remember who told it, but Lincoln Riley. They're in meetings. Somebody gets a call on his flip phone. He ends up talking to this person for an hour. The call drops. He calls the person back. Finally, at the end of it, Riley's like, "Who was that?" And he goes, "Oh, it was a wrong number." Right? There's like other ones about like this guy who was like a dad at practice, and they end up hanging out for an hour talking about anything and everything. What I love most about Mike Leach is that he just had an incredibly inquisitive and curious nature. And I love to read biographies, right, of just kind of famous thinkers, people, whatever, throughout history. And one of the common traits that you see in a lot of these people are they almost have a childlike curiosity. They can see something mundane, but instead of just being like, oh, I'm an adult and I understand it because it works, because that's how it works, they say, no, like, actually, why does that work? How does that happen? And he was insatiable. It didn't matter the subject. He could talk to people about things for so long and feel so connected with people and dive in with people on so many different subjects because he was genuinely curious about everything in the world and how everything in the world worked around him. And I've always viewed that as the hallmark of an incredibly intelligent person. And I think his impact on the game of football and in others speaks to that. I also love that in a game that can be so rigidly defined as X's and O's and trying to say, okay, what route combination is going to work here, whatever, that he was able to draw from other sources and other avenues of life, like philosophy, and then apply that on the football field. I mean, my favorite Mike Leach tweet ever is right here. It's his pinned tweet from 2018 on his Twitter page, and it says air raid offense philosophy. And it's a quote from Sun Tzu, The Art of War. And he says, and tell me that this isn't the air raid, like literally drawing from the military wisdom of the ancients and bringing it to football to revolutionize the game in the 1900s. The quote from Sun Tzu is, if he, the enemy, is superior in strength, evade him. If his forces are united, separate them. Attack him where he is unprepared, appear where you are not expected. That's incredible that he was able to make that a reality and had so much success and touched so many lives. And it sounds like he touched yours as well, Aaron. So what are these, some of these kind of stories that you had with Coach Leach?
Well, first off, like I listen to a lot of radio and shows and podcasts, and I've worked with various hosts in my life. I will say this, like I would listen every day to a podcast if you and him were the co-hosts. I think you two are some of the most entertaining people that I've ever been around, and just know so many things that aren't just that aren't football focused, that are just kind of out there at times, but I think are very fascinating. And I think that's one thing that we should all learn, and I feel like I need to do better in my life, and I think you do it well. I think he does it well. Is expand your knowledge beyond kind of your comfort zone. Like I love football, and I study, I listen, I watch film. Like I'm so focused on football. And obviously I have my life with my kids and my wife and my dogs. And I love that too. But he's someone that will push the limits, and he'll go out there and, like you said, read books on pirates to Geronimo and this and that and the other, and really, push his essentially his brain cells to the limit of learning as much as he can and taking that all in and just making him a very interesting person. So I feel like it's, for me as someone who's been around him, I feel like that is something that I could be better in my life, and that he's taught the world of yes, I could be a coach at a very high level. I could be one of the best offensive minds in college football, but that's not my life. That's not who I am. And even talking to one of my co-hosts that I work with, say that all the time. Like, when he'll talk radio, when he was doing the Sirius XM job with Chris Childers, who's my co-host in the afternoon, they would rarely talk about football. And Childers was like, we're getting paid to talk about football, and he's talking about this and that and all these other hobbies. I just think it's absolutely incredible. So I think you two have been a hell of a show. Like not football, but other interesting topics.
It's wild because I only have two run-ins with Coach Leach, and one of them was back when I was a player in 2011. at SEC Media Days, and he was doing that XM show. And I remember doing an interview with him, and I never met him before, and just being blown away. I had never done such a fun interview in my entire life. And then, sure enough, 10 years later, a decade later, it's 2020, COVID. I'm at the movie theater. Mississippi State's about to hang like 50 points and 600 yards on defending national champion LSU the next day. No, I didn't know that at the time, right? We never knew that KJ Costello was going to throw for 600 yards and get benched 2 weeks later. But whatever, I'm at the movie theater, and I see Coach Leach and the Mississippi State team there. And I like went up to him, and I introduced, I wasn't going to like pretend like we knew each other or anything. And this man starts talking about the fact that I'm from Georgia and was like bringing up these details. I mean, his mind was just razor sharp. And as I like how you put it, Aaron, he did not waste that mind. He pushed it to its absolute limits. He stretched it out. He got his tendrils in a little bit of everything. I mean, this man taught a college course while being on history and military tactics while being a big time football coach. So it's an absolute tragedy, but it is interesting to see how already he is continuing to inspire and continuing to encourage people to spread out even here after his passing. So what were your experiences with him?
So I'll go to my very first one. So this was my rookie year rookie year in broadcasting. So I had a Washington State game. So we do coaches calls during the week, and we're doing our first coaches call. And this is my first real interaction with him as an announcer and with a coach. And he's walking around the town. So he's on his phone. He's walking around the town, and we got nothing out of him. I mean, nothing. He's like in the coffee shop, and I asked him a question, and all of a sudden he's ordering a coffee. I'm like, okay, I'll let the man order a coffee. So then he gets his coffee. So I, like, hey, coach, tell me about your offense. Oh, hey, Joe, how's it going over here? Yeah, just getting ready for the game. I'm on with CBS right now. This is the production call. I'm like, oh my goodness. So then he finally, hey guys, sorry, it's my buddy. He wanted to know what's going on. And like the whole 30 minutes was like that. He was walking around the town, talking with fans about whatever. And I literally did not get anything out of him. So I'm like, okay, this man does not want to talk about football. So I learned that really quick. So fast forward the next year, I had another game with him. And Amanda Balionis, who was our superstar does all the golf broadcasts and does some football sideline reporting. So I was like, Amanda, she had all these questions. I'm like, you're not going to get shit from him. Just like, don't even think about it. Like, so like, this is just like a fun chat. Like we're not getting anything. So she's trying to do the same thing, like ask all these questions, and she's getting nothing out of him. I'm just dying laughing the entire time. So that was funny. And then, my last two, exchanges with him was this past summer, SEC Media Days. So it's me, it's Cole Kubelik, and it's your boy Hester, or our boy Hester, here in Atlanta. I think you may have been in the room. I don't know if you're in the room or not, because you were there hanging out with us. And we got up talking about ties, like wearing a tie, like a fancy tie. And he went on a whole tangent about like if he can go back in time and take care of the guy and tell him that he's a complete idiot, the guy who invented neckties, because he thinks it's the stupidest thing in the world. Like we didn't talk any football. Like we were talking about the guy who invented the necktie.
Okay.
But that is incredible.
That is the exact curiosity that I'm talking about, right? Because most people see a tie and you just accept it because you're cynical. You're an adult. This is just the way it is because it's always been this way. But what the fuck? I've never thought about this before. Who actually invented the tie?
Why?
And what's the point of
it?
And how did it suddenly become the accepted, like you cannot be a serious individual unless you put this thing around your neck underneath the collared shirt? That's borderline absurd. Like it just makes no sense. And that's something that I've never sat down and thought about until
but he questions it. But he thinks about that. He questions it. He researched it. So like we had a whole conversation about the evolution of the tie and why we wear it and where it came from. Like that was our, because we have Kirby and we have Saban and we have this coach and that coach. And we're talking balls and X and O's and players. We spent our 15, 20 minutes with him talking about the necktie. And I learned more in that 20 minutes than I probably did the entire day. And then, my last interaction, I had a Mississippi State game earlier this season. It's the same thing. Coaches called, didn't get anything, just fun. And then we're on the field, and I went up to him and we're chatting, and same thing. We're literally 30 minutes from kickoff, 20, 30 minutes from kickoff, and he was giving me on the field a breakdown of the movie that they watched the night before as a team, like giving it like his like Rotten Tomatoes review of like, okay, hey Aaron, like we went and watched, I forgot what the movie was, but we watched this movie last night. I gave it like a B minus, like Rotten Tomatoes, like this, I like that. I'm like, Coach, we're literally 30 minutes before kickoff. Just give me something that I can use on air that's relevant to the football game. Like I'm trying to do my job. And he's giving me a Rotten Tomatoes review of the movie they watched the night before with his team. But like, he's such a fascinating man, and just loved every moment that I got to experience interacting with him as a coach. And he's one of one. He really is. He is one of one. There will never be anyone like him.
And that was also kind of the genius of Coach Leach in a lot of ways when it came to football is he didn't overcomplicate it. Mm-hmm. I mean, we talked about during the year this season, we see Jimbo out with a spiral notebook, like flipping through a million pages. Mike Leach is out there with a note card, just kind of glancing at it, calling something every now and then. It's almost like, I feel like when it comes to design, I always feel like the Japanese have been the master of mastering simplicity, right? It's something that I find as I get older, I appreciate more and more. Like, yeah, well, it's like I don't like nowadays, like I don't want a meat lover's pizza. I want a pepperoni, but I want the pepperoni done to perfection, right? Like, I don't care what kind of odd ingredients you can combine. I want you to make the best vanilla ice cream that I have ever had. And that's what Mike Leach did a lot of ways with the air raid, is he boiled this thing down for years and years, like some sort of master artisan chipping away here, a couple brushstrokes here. He boiled down this offense, kept it relevant, kept it threatening for decades, and just continue to simplify. And it's fascinating. And just look at all the coaches and players that he had that are now spread all throughout college football, the NFL. I mean, it's like you said, Aaron, he touched lives, and that's why he got into it. And that was probably his biggest accomplishment. Do you have a favorite Mike Leach play or game that stands out to you above all others?
I mean, I enjoy every time I get the opportunity to watch them. I mean, I watch a lot of tape on them, just covering the SEC, and just, I've really loved these past 3 years, him and Will Rogers. I think that's been a very, you talk about all the time, like what those two have done together. And he's just been to some unique places. I think that's what he's taken non-traditional teams and made them exciting, from Texas Tech to Washington
real
State.
Life dynasty mode.
Like these places are not supposed to be relevant or good or exciting, and he's made them exciting and a talking point. And you talk about just the type of offense he runs. It's a no card, but he will spend an entire practice running one concept, and just 4 verts, for example. Hey, we are only going to run 4 verticals today in practice. That's it, and we're going to run it first. Every combination of defense, every coverage, and as a player, you're going to learn how to win when you're not supposed to. Like, you may draw it up on the card, and defense say, "Oh, there's no way that." He will find a way to make that work. It was fun. I was listening to Urban Meyer. I thought had a great talk this morning. Him and Urban were down in Florida. Urban brought him to Florida, and they were talking about certain concepts. And Urban was like, "Okay, a corner route. So you take it high angle to the corner. You hate it versus outside leverage. It sucks versus outside leverage. It's awful. If I'm a quarterback, I see outside leverage. I'm like, okay, the play's dead." And he said, No. It can still win. I can take it high. I could break it across the corner's face. I could take it below him. I could throw a back shoulder from a quarterback standpoint and keep it on the inside. And like, he was always finding ways, like, I can make this play work. Give me a player, give me enough reps, and he will learn that no matter what coverage, whatever it is, there is always a weakness in the defense. And that's it. Like, I don't need to change the play and create 5 different plays because of what the defense. No. We're going to find a way to, within the play, adjust to bend your will and your weakness.
Yes, design a concept to take on all comers in one scene. Like
Yes.
it's genius. And it
Yeah.
reminds you of my favorite play, which I'm not exactly. I guess I thought it was four verts. Maybe it was a corner, but it should have been dead. Either way, my favorite play I ever remember exactly where it was. I remember how old I was. It was that Michael Crabtree catch, dude. I was watching it. I
Yeah.
was at the lake up at Toledo Bend, Louisiana, watching it with my old man. Now, I remember Texas being really good, but I was shocked today when I rewatched it, seeing that Texas Tech was seventh in the country at the time. I
Yeah.
mean, Mike Leach had the Texas Tech Red Raiders beating the number one team in the country while ranked seventh with Michael Crabtree catching balls. I mean, Wes Welker came out of there, right? The list goes on and on. And it
What was Washington State his last year or second last year? I mean, they were
I mean,
undefeated almost
the
the end of the
problem with
season, right?
Washington State, yeah, the problem with Washington State was he just struggled in the Apple Cup, and
Yeah.
he had some inexplicable losses, but then would have the classic Mike Leach um, inexplicable win where he beats the enemy that is superior in
Yes.
strength.
Yep. They had 11
Now,
wins in 2018. 11 wins at Washington
he had
State.
11 wins. Holy shit!
11 wins. 11-2.
Um, and I know we got to go here, but this is arguably really dumb, and I can understand if somebody doesn't feel this same way. But there is a part of me that is very happy that he went out a winner. Like, I know in light of the
Yeah.
greater tragedy that it means nothing, but I know rivalry games meant something to him. He knew what it meant to the community. As you said, he was such an active part of the community.
Mhm.
And so for him to get that win, to beat a favored Ole Miss team on the
Yep.
road when they weren't supposed to then tie and finish ahead of Ole Miss in the standings, it kind of encapsulates what his entire career was about, which was punching up, overcoming expectations. And again, I'm not saying like that's not where the focus should be, but it does make me happy that that he went out on top like that.
Yeah, had a heck of a season. So yeah, everyone today just continue to read the stories, listen to the stories. I mean, it's I
Yeah,
know it's supposed to be a day of sadness, but you just can't help but smile and laugh with all these great stories and ways that he impacted my life, your life, people in this college community's
crazy.
lives. I mean, he is someone that will forever put a smile on your face and make you think about your life and how you could be better, because he definitely, like we talked about earlier, he always found ways to make his life better and those around him better.